I'm there today, man.
I'm not.
Spitting fire.
If you wanna find me, yeah, I'm in the front row. With my 2 tickets on me, I'm in the front row. It's the best place to be, I'm in the front row. Best place to be, yeah. If you wanna find me, yo, I'm in the front row. With my 2 tickets on me, I'm in the front row. It's the best place to be, I'm in.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the In the Front Row YouTube channel. This is a brand new episode for you of Double Trouble. Dylan and Dustin alongside here with you. We have new episodes every Friday, and this one is a juicy one. We cannot wait. We cannot wait to get into a lot on the plate to discuss it. But first, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe down below to the In the Front Row YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you get a notification every time a brand new episode is posted. We have a lot to discuss. We're going to start with kind of what's trending in the NBA, and it was post-game comments this week by Draymond Green, who, and I want to get your reaction to it, and I guess I'll react as well. His reaction to the Andre Drummond, well, it was reported by Woj on ESPN that Andre Drummond was going to be traded. I don't think the organization has commented yet, but Draymond Green had a very, very strong reaction to it, really comparing the organizational tactic to trades versus how players request trades. He was citing or using an example of James Harden, and he was really calling it bullshit to be lightly on the Andre Drummond trade to quote him directly. He's saying it's not fair that players are treated like that. They are not, but then when they request a trade, they kind of are viewed as the cancer of the team. I want your reaction to his strong comments this week.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. And the one thing you may not like Draymond Green, but you can always say the man's always honest and real. He's always been like that ever since he joined the Warriors. I agree with him. I think and I was mentioning 2020 has been a rough year. We all know. We don't have to explain why. Yeah. But I think the one good thing that really came to light in 2020 was people finding their own voice, no matter what level you're on at the power structure, or like how much power you have in a company, like where you are in your life and how high up you are. I think people are finding their own voice no matter where they are. And that's how I took it. That was my first reaction. I took more of a broad reaction than just, staying to the NBA. But Draymond Green was basically saying, it's not fair that these billion-dollar owners can get away with what we can't get away with. Like we, as players, if you look at James Harden, or even go back to Anthony Davis when Rich Paul came out about him wanting to be traded. They're a cancer. They're castrated for basically stating they want a different situation. And they think it's time to move on. That's all they're saying. They want to move on from the organization. But it's completely okay for these billion-dollar owners or whoever's high up in the organization. If you want to look at the owner, the GM, the president, whoever you want to look up, it's completely okay for them to leak, the information. We all know it's not leaked, but leak the information to the media and use the media like Andre Drummond, like, oh, you're going to sit down. It is embarrassing. And I just think, what I was saying earlier, it's about time everybody in America has a voice and not just the people high up in whatever company or whatever, situation you're in.
I took it more specifically to sports than, the outside of sports and what has been going on in the past year. I took it more specifically like as an organizational failure, I think that I agree with him when it comes to organizations. It's a business transaction, and a lot of even people debate now, like people who really love tradition and love one player being loyal to a team for the duration of his career. We've seen, you can name a ton of players who did it back, like Kobe, like, you can go on and on. And now it's more of a business transaction where you can make the most money, where you can move. And it looks like that way from an organizational standpoint too. If they're done with you, they're going to try to make a move. I think they could handle it a little better organizationally. I think that they could kind of make players more aware, especially if you're, started or you begin to invest something in a player and then you kind of like, I think it's kind of rude when you're like, when we're done with you, we're just going to kind of clean hands and not really tell you. I think you could handle it better up front and be like, this is what we're going to do and this is why. I just think we still have a lot to go in power structure, especially in sports. I think we've seen it in the NFL with Colin Kaepernick, which is a whole different situation. We've seen, the NFL owners and organizations kind of use their power to blackball him from the NFL, even though they've promised him workouts, they've promised him. So that's totally different than obviously what Draymond Green was discussing, but I'm just saying I took it more as that. Yeah. And when players decide to speak up, I think now with social media and things getting traction, players speak up more just because they can or they will be heard. And he obviously was heard. It went viral. People are heavily discussing it. I couldn't agree with him more. I think it's unfair. I think James Harden is a bad example, though. I think, in a way, James Harden, with the reports that came out, how he acted in Houston, I think people could have referred to him as a cancer to the team.
I just think it was more the principle.
No, I'm saying, to the team regardless. Anthony Davis, I think it's a better example. I don't think he did much in the New Orleans organization before he was moved and when Rich Paul spoke up. It's interesting to me to see players finally saying, like, hey, like, we're not going to stand and tell our division we're making all this money for you. But at the end of the day, I don't know if you agree, it's a business transaction. And they're going to do the best they can to win. And if they think they can do better without you, that's how they're going to do it.
No, but I don't know. I just stick to the point. And I know where you're coming from with that. And it is a business transaction. But it's okay for the owners or the organization to have a business transaction. While the players, it's personal. Like, if you look at, I know James Harden, I know the reports came out, but let's look at Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis was like, oh, I don't want to be in New Orleans anymore. I want to be traded to the Lakers, LA, big market, whatever. It was personal with Anthony Davis. It wasn't just like a business transaction for him. So I just think people are starting to realize, no matter what in life, like, you have a voice, no matter where you are in life, and you can speak out on whatever issues you want to. Obviously, Draymond Green has always spoken out. And I think it's like you can do things with respect involved. So, like, for example, just to be like, oh, like Shaq was saying, and, he was just saying this on NBA, like on TNT, like, what was today? 2 nights ago. He was saying the only person that kept it real with him was Steve Kerr when he was either moved on from the Lakers or when he moved on from the Heat and, went to all his teams after that. He said no one ever told him. Like, you can at least, it's all about communication. Like, I'm not taking anything away from someone who's that high up in an organization, but at the end of the day, you can still have respect for people who work for you, or because as we see, people are finding their voices nowadays, and you can still have respect and you can still communicate. That's like, and be honesty. I thought those were like things you were taught, at a younger age. So I don't know. I think Draymond Green's 100,000, what am I going to say, % right, and hopefully we start to see some changes.
Hopefully, but I think at the end of the day, it's always going to be a business. I hate to take that standpoint of it. And I get what you're saying where, players aren't treated fairly when they are moved. I get the hypocrisy in it when, players want to be moved, the principle of it. They get castrated or they see him as an outsider or a cancer bringing down the team. I think when he also brought up Kyrie Irving and how, his mental health issues and how they've been reported, which I think is a whole different discussion. I think he was more saying like this could affect Drum immensely. I don't know if it has. But I think at the end of the day, it's always going to be a business. If you're in that position of power, you have the moves to make, or you have the power to make. It's not fair. It's like I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying you have.
It's like the player. I was gonna say it's like the player versus like owner debate. Like you should make all the money. What was that, like a couple years ago? It's like, or like who's more valuable, like. Because technically the owner owns the team and like with the players bringing in all the revenue in that way. So I think it's like similar to that debate. I just think it's like you were mentioning the hypocrisy of, it's okay when the owner doesn't. It's just viewed as a business transaction. All the players want is respect. They don't want to say, hey, the owners aren't allowed to make any moves anymore. There's no more trades allowed. Like, that's not it. They just literally want the respect of, if they want out, for people to respect them just like the owners, I guess.
And I think the other issue with it, and I think maybe this is something that I thought of his comments. I've never personally been a player or owner, so I'm just speaking from like what I'm analyzing. I think that the other issue could be people follow the players more. So when he was talking about fans castrating or saying, that player's a cancer for requesting a trade, I think it is because, especially now on the social media age,
they're more well known.
Highlights, they are more well known, and I think, if say he were to request a trade, or say when James Harden did, and then the reports came out, or when Anthony Davis did, people are like, oh, he's being a diva. He, isn't winning and isn't happy, and they're making all this money, and they still want to be traded. I think I think that's why people don't really know the owners. If you go up to regular people in the street who are fans, they're obviously going to know more players than owners. Obviously, super fans are going to know everything. Yeah. But I'm just saying, as like a fan, you're going to be more inclined to follow a player's journey than an owner's journey. And I think that's why when an owner makes a business transaction, it's not as this person's kids. It's more of like, was this trade a good trade for the franchise? Yeah, and just like real quick, I think there's certain levels to it. Because obviously I spoke about Russell Wilson last week and how I think it's, kind of not unfair, but it's like, he really shouldn't request a trade from Seattle. Like, I think he's in a good situation. I think there's certain levels to everything, and there's like a certain line to everything. But I think it's still about like it's a respect factor, but you also have to look at the situation you're in if that's fair, I guess, if that makes sense. No, I get it. And I think, you're going to want what you want. A lot of players, especially when they get towards the end of their career, they go more into championship mode especially if they haven't won one. They want to win a championship, and obviously certain organizations are doing better at the time, and certain
not the Texans. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't speak on Texas like that. They're going through some rough times.
That organization still is a disaster. Speaking of the NFL, we will wrap it up by saying Colin Kaepernick should have a job.
I second that.
Yeah. Anyway, just unfortunately.
Yeah, and Deshaun Watson should slide out of Houston.
Apparently, he's not being traded. Guys, we're talking the NFL, and after this break, we are going to continue talking the NFL because big news came out of Philadelphia today.
You love this.
Not really. Carson Wentz was traded to Indianapolis. We're going to talk about that coming up.
Wanna find me, Joe? I'm in the front row. Got 2 tickets on me. I'm in the front row. The best place to be. I'm in the front row. So what's colder than ice and even hotter than a flame? I'll be in the front row chilling out.
Welcome back to Double Trouble. We have new episodes for you every Friday, and we are super excited about that. We're going to move into the NFL and what was trending in the NFL this week.
There's always really trending.
The day of we're taping. Carson Wentz is officially moved. It came out earlier in the week that Wentz was going to be moved out of Philadelphia, and now he officially has a landing spot, and it's a reunion with Frank Reich. Carson Wentz moving to Indianapolis for 2 picks, a 3rd round and 2nd round pick. That means Jalen Hurts is now officially the starter in Philadelphia, which means
a great head coach.
I should have went with my gut on that prediction we did a while ago.
I know.
Yeah. Your reaction, Carson Wentz's move, can Frank Reich kind of rejuvenate his career in Indy?
I think he can, and I know we're going to have different reactions because we think differently on Carson Wentz. Well, first of all, I said last week at the end of the show, they weren't going to get a 1st round pick. When those reports came out, that was just blasphemous, as Stephen A. would say.
A little ambitious.
But I think he can. I think, first of all, Frank Reich, a Maryland boy, can we shout that out, repping the home state? But I think he can because I think if you look at Carson Wentz's best point in his career, the Eagles were 11-2. He was having an MVP season. Like, he was a clear-cut MVP, and then obviously he got hurt in L.A. in that Rams game. And Frank Reich was his OC there. So I think there were 2 places Carson Wentz could have went, and Indy was the best one. I think Chicago was another option, but I don't think it would have panned out as well. I think Carson Wentz still has some juice in the tank. I think it's all mental for him. I think his physical attributes are there. If Frank Reich can build him from the ground up and build a better attitude for him, because life is a lot about mental stuff, or like how you think mentally, how you handle yourself mentally. I think Carson Wentz handled himself pretty poorly in Philadelphia with when he got benched, and then the report came out, going back to leaking reports. The report came out that if he was going to be a backup, that he doesn't want to be in Philly anymore on the day that Jalen Hurts was starting. That's pretty poor. So I think Carson Wentz has to kind of like look himself in the mirror. It's like when you talk to yourself in the mirror, like, you can do this. I really think he has to look himself in the mirror and just reflect on what mistakes he made and move on, because it's okay to make mistakes in life. But as long as you understand how to fix them and move on and reflect and say, hey, I did make a mistake. This is how I can change it. I think he has a chance in Indianapolis because I think it's all mental with him, and I think he has the arm and the talent to be a quarterback in the National Football League.
I think it's a difficult question. I know people's main point, especially over the past few seasons, were that Carson Wentz had nobody to throw to in Philadelphia. He had no talent on the outside of or at the receiver position, and then it was a whole argument there. I think Indy does have a little bit more talent in that position, so we will see if that is the case. We saw Jalen Hurts come in and kind of rejuvenate that offense and played better, I think, in the offense than Carson Wentz. I think Doug Peterson, maybe a little bit of coaching had to do with that. But if you should go back to what made you most successful is what I say. And if Frank Wright, when he was the offensive coordinator there and I moved on to that coaching position, if that's a person that can kind of mentor you and develop you, then it's a great fit for Carson Wentz. Will he rejuvenate his career? I don't know. I just don't think I don't know. Since his MVP season, I just don't think we've seen it. I think in the NFL, maybe some players can only be relevant for a certain amount of time. I mean, I'm not wishing bad against.
So you're saying he was like a trend? He was like a Fetty Wap in the music industry?
I think. And
he's not going to be like a Drake or like a Usher. He's like a Fetty Wap.
I think I don't want to be rude when I say that because that's not my intention. I want to see him go to Indianapolis and I want to see him do well and rejuvenate his career. I just don't know, being from an analyst point of view, but maybe what he needs is a fresh start. I will say one thing, it got toxic in Philadelphia. We heard the reports. I mean, if you're getting paid over $100 million guaranteed for your contract, you probably wouldn't want to be benched either. And I think you get a certain ego about you when you get a certain, swagger about you that you think you're better than anyone else. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying you think you deserve to be treated a certain way if you're getting paid that money. Yeah. And obviously, I think it has to do a lot with market value and the contracts going up. But and when you get benched to a person that was picked in the second round, maybe you feel a certain way about it. And you can't necessarily blame him for that.
The part that I'm worried about is it seems like he doesn't like to be challenged. And that's what I think he needs to change, because as soon as Philly drafts a backup quarterback in the second round, you mentioned Jalen Hurts being drafted then, it's a problem for him. And obviously, mentally, he just went all over the place.
We didn't see that with Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, gee, you don't have to bring up Aaron Rodgers every episode. He's as good as Carson Wentz in the playoffs. But I'm just saying,
he has a Super Bowl, but okay.
Yeah, but he's also 1-4. We're not going to get that debate about that. But I think for Carson Wentz, this is his last shot. Like, if he can't make it work in Indianapolis with Frank Reich, like, he's going to be out of the league, unfortunately. And I know,
or just a backup,
or he could be Blake Bortles and just your boy and just go back up.
Blake, that was not his fault.
That was his fault.
No.
But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. No, I really do think he has a good shot in Indianapolis. I think if he can build, like I said, if he can build himself up again and just mentally be strong, you're going to be challenged in the NFL. Like, that's just that's the nature of the business. And honestly, I would rather be in Indianapolis with Frank Reich than stay in Philadelphia with that head coach. What's his name? I don't know his name.
The guy from Indianapolis.
Yeah. He's just like trying to make he's like, I'm going to be like 5th grade math for my team and like calculus for the other team. It was that stupid press conference. So I think Carson Wentz has a much better shot. I feel bad for Jalen Hurts because to play, but that's.
I don't know how the timeline of events went. But I think if you knew you were trading Carson Wentz, why wouldn't you keep Doug Peterson? Because I think Doug Peterson called the games well when Jalen Hurts was in. I don't know the timeline of events going to be. They didn't know at the time, but I think as an organization, you probably had a feeling that you were going to move him at the end of the season.
Yeah, before
you had to get rid of that big contract. And I think I know that at the end of the season, we all knew Doug Peterson was going to get fired, but I think maybe you should have considered keeping Doug Peterson, especially because I think you saw Jalen Hurts step in. I think Doug Peterson kind of had. Like Carson Wentz maybe is going to get a fresh start.
You never believed in Carson Wentz.
No, but maybe.
Had to say that.
I'm saying Carson Wentz is going to get a fresh start. Jalen Hurts or Doug Peterson when Jalen Hurts came in, you kind of saw his coaching kind of. It was it was a fresh start again, and it was he called the game well. They started to play a little better. I maybe would have given him a season with Jalen Hurts and seeing how it goes. Obviously, it's not my decision. I'm not in the organization. But I don't know. I want to see.
You don't win a Super Bowl, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and then forget how to coach. Well, first of all, I'll say Doug Peterson never believed in Carson Wentz. That was pretty obvious from the last 2 seasons, not just one. Even when he replaced Nick Foles with him, and then obviously, twice actually. Well, one he got injured, but then obviously he benched him, and they made that playoff run again. And then obviously Jalen Hurts last year. I think the organization saw Doug Peterson. I do agree with you though, because thinking about it. I think Doug Peterson wanted Jalen Hurts to be his quarterback, I just don't think the organization let him speak about it, because you could see his press conferences. He was kind of timid, and he really didn't want to say anything about Carson Wentz, but we all knew what he was thinking. So I think – but if you were going to get rid of Carson Wentz, I think Doug Peterson should still be your head coach. If they kept Carson Wentz, it would make sense if they moved on from him. So I just think your head coach has to believe in your quarterback. That's like the first position you have to believe in. So I do get that, but I don't know. I think it's kind of Philly's making some dicey moves, and I kind of feel bad for the Philly organization because those fans are not just people who like to sit around and wait. Like
one thing,
Philly fans, they're real.
The one thing they're lucky about is they play in the NFC East, so they will be in contention every year. I think, hey, you only have to win 7 or 8 games, and you'll be okay. I do want to see how he plays as a number 1 target. T.Y. Hilton's still.
He's a free agent, I believe.
Well, if T.Y. Hilton signs back, I don't.
Does he though?
I'll
have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I want to see how he plays a little more talent on the offensive side of the ball.
And he has a running game, too.
He has a running game, which is going to be
great
more
offensive
balanced.
line.
So now it's good for him to see if he can still play as a starting quarterback in the NFL, because now he can't use that excuse of, there's no running game, there's no balance, there's no
line.
There's no receivers. He has a good offense in Indy.
And a good defense.
Yeah, so we're going to see. This is really his test to see.
That's what I'm saying. If it doesn't work out here.
Yeah, this is really his test to see if the talent is still there, and he's going to a playoff caliber team who was in the division race last season. So we'll see.
They gave up. Think about this and we can end it. But they gave up 19 sacks with Phillip Rivers as their quarterback as a stationary target. So I think Carson Wentz, there's no more excuses to even get sacked a lot, which he did last season, be under pressure and throw a lot of picks or turn over the ball. He has a great offensive line, great running game, great defense. This is his last shot.
You see Indy's new franchise quarterback. They're looking for somebody. They haven't had one since Peyton Manning played there? Oh, Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, and then he retired. So I guess they're looking for the quarterback. I know we say this all the time, is the most talked about position, but you could say it's the director of your offense is the most important position. Can Indy find a charm with Carson Wentz, and we'll see if his career is rejuvenated again. He's moved for 2 picks to Indianapolis from Philadelphia, which means Jalen Hurts is now the starter in Philadelphia.
I feel bad for him.
I mean,
I'm just saying they're not.
I mean, I think he's talented enough to.
Yeah, but it's all about coaching.
I just wanted to see if they gave Doug Peterson 1 season with him. Well, I would like to see what happens.
It's a lot about coaching in the NFL, and it's a little questionable. I wonder who's worse, him or kneecaps. So we'll see. 2 interesting hires.
Yeah, we will see. Moving forward, as long as the Ravens get a number 1 target, that's how we're gonna.
Julio,
that's hard.
Pick up the phone and be like, "Yo, Arthur, can I have Julio?"
We're gonna wrap it up.
Or Odell.
Yeah, I want Odell. We're gonna wrap it up here on Double Trouble. This concludes another brand new episode. We'll have a brand new episode for you next Friday. Go ahead and subscribe down below if you haven't already, and follow us on social media. Our social media links will be in the description, as well as go ahead and follow In the Front Row In the Front Row LA. And we will see you next time. Who knows what we're going to talk about. Bye, guys.
Wanna find me, Joe? I'm in the front row. Got 2 tickets on me, I'm in the front row. The best place to be, I'm in the front row. Best place to be. So what's colder than ice and even hotter than a flame? I'll be in the front row, chilling out.